What's happening, good people? Welcome to the Steppers Pavilion show. I'm your host, Lamont Coy. We're here to enjoy life one step at a time. This is a show all about stepping. We're going to give you snippets and perspectives on stepping as we go through this show. And we're just here to just show you how people just enjoy life one step at a time.
Oh, yes, indeed. When you give it up, it's only enough to make me see. Ooh, baby, that you're playing a game. It's so plain that you want me to win, and I'm willing to play.
Well, folks, thank you for joining us here at the Steppers Pavilion. I know you've had a lot of fun. I know I did. We'll be right back.
I just want you to know that I think about you.
Lumiere Steppers LLC presents the Steppers Pavilion with your host, Lamont Coy. The show features some of the best Chicago-style steppin' and dancers. Each episode provides the latest dance moves with style.
It's more than just a dance, right?
Great connectivity. This is about family.
Join the fun each week. Lumiere Steppers LLC presents the Steppers Pavilion with your host, Lamont Coy.
I just want you to know that I think about you.
Hey, what's happening, good people? How's everybody doing? I'd like to welcome you all to the Steppers Pavilion. My name is Lamont Coy. I'm your host, and I have the pleasure of introducing to you one distinguished guest that I've been looking forward to get to talk to and interview for a little while now. His name is Dave Max, upstanding member of the Steppin community in Chicago, South Side. And, you know, I'll let him tell you who he is. So Dave, welcome to the show. First of all, I appreciate
What's happening, man?
taking the time to spend time with us. But tell the
Pleasure.
audience a little bit about yourself. Who is Dave Max?
Dave Max is just another dancer on the set. I've had the unique privilege and journey to accomplish some things. From establishing dance communities outside of Chicago, on both coasts and a few places in between. I've had the opportunity to dance on stage at the largest contest for Steppin and walk away with a couple of titles here and there. And I've had the privilege to serve as an instructor for the past 22 years. Helping people develop their skills as dancers, and also have some input on developing some instructors who've gone on to do some great things. So, but at the end of the day, I'm a fortunate servant who's had the opportunity to be blessed, number one, by people who took some time out to pour some things into me. And fortunately, part of my gift was to be able to pour that out for some other people to enhance their experiences. So if nothing else, I'm just a dancer on the set who's had the opportunity to serve. And I take great pride in that.
Awesome. I mean, it takes a lot to be able to pour into others. It takes a lot to be able to, give of yourself in that way. And today we're going to be talking about the culture of stepping. And obviously you were born into it. And I would just like to just ask you, how has the stepping culture impacted you personally?
Well, one thing, I'm one of the few people who wasn't born into it. I got into it in the early 90s, like a lot of other young people. And I can't say that it was new to me. Being from the South Side and being from Inglewood, you kind of have some exposure to the fact that stepping exists, right?
Okay.
And so what I thought stepping was, or my interpretation of it, was a lot of the James Brown-esque moves that you see it in certain parts of the set. But it wasn't until I went to a party, oh my goodness, I'm gonna say 1992, 1993, at an old club called Seagulls downtown. And so me and some friends from work headed to that party. And back then they called me Dance Machine, right? And so we went to Seagulls, but that night it wasn't the regular, urban professional, young folks dance set. It was a stepper set. And the person who was the host that night, and who's like one of my godmothers at this point, was Leanna Miles. And we went in the party, and we felt out of place because we was younger than everybody else because they weren't necessarily older. They was my age, for now, right?
For now, okay.
And went in there and hopped out there when I can't remember what song came on, but I got out there and I did my jigging and all this other was getting off the dance floor. And I thought that they was getting off because I was so entertaining, right? And the thing was, they was getting off the floor because I was all over the place. They didn't want to be on the floor with me, right? And so once it was over, I felt the despise in the room, right? And so I ended up walking past Leanna. I'll never forget. She said, "Why would you get on the floor and act a fool?" And I was like, "What?" I thought what I did was awesome, right? And
Did you just say that?
Man, no, right? You know what I'm saying?
Did you just see
Like,
that?
man, my friends was cheering for me. Dude, I clowned out there. I did all kind of food, right? And so I left there, and later on, there's a brother actually who's in Atlanta. His name is Lonnie Gate.
Lonnie,
And
Lonnie, I know Lonnie.
Lonnie is the one who actually introduced me to the real stepper scene. Right?
Wow, Lonnie, that's my boy.
Yeah,
See him all the time.
That's my guy. And so when he took me, I had the opportunity to see a brother named Adrian Haywood. And that brother was so cool. He was the only one on the dance floor because we had gotten to the set early. And I was like, man, that ain't nothing like what I was doing when I was at the club that night. And so Lonnie was like, "So you dancing?" I was like, "Hell no, I ain't dancing." Right? And so after that was how I got introduced to Calvin Barnes and the whole 9 yards. And that was how my journey began. A lot of people traditionally have that, well, I learned from my mom, or I danced with my aunties and my uncles.
Right.
I didn't have that experience. My experience was, I could do certain things, but stepping just wasn't part of our family life. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay.
And so I wasn't born into it. I was adopted.
Adopted. I guess that's go ahead.
And later on, it got good to me, but it did start out that way.
Yeah, I think that's a perception of a lot of people, outside of Chicago. Oh man, he born into it. He came out the womb stepping. I mean,
man, listen, the great many of us who are recognized dancers at this point, we didn't get here like this. It came with a lot of hard work and a whole lot of nights in the club. And time was our best friend because we learned that time was that element that provided you with the path to excellence. It wasn't a microwave experience. It wasn't something that happened overnight. You'll hear stories here and there about, how people, became good as soon as they put the water on the seed. I don't remember it happening for none of us that way, but okay. But stepping is not as widespread as people think. There are a lot of people in Chicago who don't know what stepping is, right? So it's still, I wouldn't call it an underground thing at this point because it's moving around and it's doing some things that it never did. But I would say that it's that thing that's still growing and evolving even here. And I'm privileged and blessed to be a part of it, and excited at what the future possibilities hold. As far as a positive impact on me, it actually took away the idea that I was cool as an island. And what I mean by that, it gave me the confidence to interact with people. It gave me the confidence to be me and to allow my personality to show, and to learn how to interact with people. It put me in a position to see Black culture in action, that may not have been in history books, but had impacts on our communities that a lot of us even weren't even aware that were taking place, where we needed those feel-good moments. Looking at the set and realizing how impactful it is on people's lives, how people's lives have literally been saved by the fact that the set existed. The positive for me was that I got to be a part of, and learning some history and seeing some people who you wouldn't necessarily think were historical, but realizing that you were in the presence of greatness, even when it came from the hood. So learning to be proud of the hood, learning to be proud of our people was another thing that was super positive for me.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I get that. I get that. You mentioned opportunities. How has Steppin inspired you or afforded you the opportunity to serve the community? I mean, you spent some time in it. You've learned. You've had the opportunity to grow some, and you get to a point where, okay, how do I insert myself in a position to like really serve the community? What opportunities, what were the first opportunities that you can recall came to you?
The first opportunities were just people who thought that I was good enough to listen to or to ask for tips. That was the very first thing that started to happen. After that happened for a while, people were saying, well, hey, why don't you start a class? Because classes weren't the traditional way that you learn to dance or came into it. Even though I learned at a class, that wasn't the preferred way of working your way into the community. So once I started the tips thing, people would say, well, why don't you start a class? Because you give good tips. And I was like, I don't want to be bothered with that. And I fought it off for a long time. It wasn't until my instructor told me it was time, and I told him it wasn't time because I didn't feel like being bothered. And then his response was, what if I told you that when you wanted to learn? That cut me deep, right?
Wow.
And so he was like, you don't get to choose whether or not you make a contribution. You've gotten some things from this tradition. Now it's time for you to give something back. And so
wow.
I came up with excuses. And then finally one day I said, well, I would do it, but I ain't got a place. He said, oh, that's the only reason? Yeah, you got to have a place to do classes. And called me and said, meet me over here on 75th and Maryland. And I think at 11, 12 o'clock one Saturday or Sunday. And he had a place for me to go and start doing classes.
Had you all set up?
Yeah, he was like, good. So when you gonna start? You know what I mean? And the owner of the lounge gave me the keys. I was like, why are you giving me keys? So you can get in, because I'm not coming up here at that time. It's too early. I was like, are you serious? So it was one of those things, but that ended up being one of the greatest blessings that I've ever had. Not for popularity's sake, not for even money's sake. Because when I first started, I just wanted to make enough money to put gas in the car and pay for drinks when I go out. And so it opened up to be a business opportunity. It opened up to a whole lot of hard lessons that I thought I knew because I was college educated and, we dignified and, the whole 9 yards. And I learned the hard way that business was about people. It wasn't necessarily about the idea of business. And so that blessing and that opportunity taught me some lessons that being in business was, number one, about service. And number two, it was about learning how to identify and work with people and develop some relationships so that, they could further what they were trying to get into, and realizing that there was no greater opportunity than being in a position to help someone get to where they were trying to go.
Thank you once again for joining us, Dave. We really appreciate you.
Glad
And
to be
we
of
look
service.
forward to seeing you again, man. We'd love to have you back again. Once again,
man.
ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mr. Dave Max. Appreciate you, brother.
Hey,
All right.
much,
Thank you for
man.
coming in.
All right,
Take
bro.
care.
Peace.
Peace.
I just want you to know that I think about you.
Lumiere Steppers LLC presents the Steppers Pavilion with your host, Lamont Coy. The show features some of the best Chicago-style steppin' and dancers. Each episode provides the latest dance moves with style.
It's more than just a dance, right?
Great connectivity. This is about family.
Join the fun each week. Lumiere Steppers LLC presents the Steppers Pavilion with your host, Lamont Coy.
I just want you to know that I think about you.
What's happening, good people? This is the Steppers Pavilion. I'm your host, Lamont Coy, and this is a Lumiere Steppers LLC production in association with Hype Media Global.
Lord, I suffered through the years and shed so many tears. Lord, I lost so many fears and shed so many tears.
Now I'm lost in the weary, so many tears. I'm suicidal, so don't stand in me. My every move is a calculated step to bring me closer to embracing early death. Now there's nothing left. There was no mercy on the streets. I couldn't rest. I'm barely standing, about to go to pieces, screaming peace. And though my soul was deleted, I couldn't see it. I had my mind full of demons trying to break free. They planted seeds and they had sparking the flame inside my brain like a match. Such a dirty game. No memory, just a misery. Painting the picture of my enemies killing me in my sleep. Will I survive till the morning to see the sun? Please Lord forgive me for my sins, cause here I come.
Lord, I suffered through the years and shed so many tears.
God,
I lost so many fears.
and Lord knows I tried. Been a witness to homicides and drive-by, taking lives, little kids die. When the rise I walk by, broken hearted as I glance at the chalk line, keeping high. Is it the life for me? I wanna change, but ain't no future right for me. I'm stuck in the game. I'm trapped inside a maze. See this Tangeray influence me, they getting crazy, disillusioned lately. I've been really wanting babies, so I can see a part of me that wasn't always shady. Don't trust my lady, cause she's too hot, cause poison, I'm hearing noises. Think she's fucking on my voice, can't take no more. I'm falling to the floor, begging for the Lord to let me into heaven's door. Shed so many tears. Lord, I lost so many years and shed so many tears.
I lost so many fears and shed so many tears.
Though I walk in the valley of death. Shall not fear no man but God. Though I walk in the valley
Well, folks, thank you for joining us here at the Steppers Pavilion. I know you've had a lot of fun. I know I did.